The year 2023 has been eventful to say the least. Some events shook the world and some just gently rattled it. While one war was already raging in the heart of Europe, the year ended with another one jolting West Asia, sending ripples across the world and leaving it deeply divided.
3 satellites separated.
3 को सफलतापूर्वक अंतक्षेपित कर दिया गया है.
There have been record-setting scientific advancements and record-shattering climate extremes. As we head into 2024, here's a look at 5 stories that shaped 2023. On October 7, 2023, Israel witnessed an unprecedented attack on its territory. Hamas launched a land, sea and air assault on Israel from the Gaza Strip. Hundreds of Hamas terrorists armed with guns entered Israel. Around 1,200 Israelis were killed and hundreds, including soldiers, civilians and foreign nationals, were held hostage. The attack turned into a massacre. What followed was never seen before. Israel launched a revenge attack and vowed to wipe out Hamas. Over 18,000 Palestinians have been killed, millions displaced from their homes. Israeli troops launched a ground invasion into the Gaza Strip. Israel claims to have destroyed Hamas command centers, terror tunnels, and wiped out senior leaders. Hospitals too were caught in the front line of war. Israel claims Gaza hospitals were used as shelters for Hamas terrorists and safe houses to hide hostages. The IDF even claims to have uncovered Hamas tunnels beneath hospitals and training centers under Gaza mosques. A pause after the first 7 weeks of war gave Gazans a reprieve. Palestinians saw aid trickling in through Egypt's Rafah border after being deprived of food, shelter and drinking water for weeks. The humanitarian pause resulted in the release of some hostages by Hamas too, but it was short-lived, and Israel hit back even harder, flattening most of Gaza from north to south. The war has divided the world between those calling for a ceasefire, those backing Israel, and some sitting on the fence. The United States, Israel's biggest ally, rushed in more munitions and blocked international pushes for ceasefire. On the one hand, Washington said Israel had a right to defend itself. On the other, it urged its West Asian partner to minimize civilian losses in Gaza. Speaking of the United States and wars, there's another one that Washington has been backing militarily since February 2022. Let's tell you where that's headed. Over 600 days into the war, the United States said it's running out of funding for Ukraine. The White House has for months been urging Congress to pass a bill to provide more funding for Ukraine aid. It said without new funding, aid to Ukraine will be depleted by the end of the year. To push for it, the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky made his third run to Washington since the war began. He pleaded his case on Capitol Hill and at the White House, but the Republicans appear unconvinced. The Biden administration urged Congress to approve a $106 billion for wars in Ukraine, Israel, and other security needs. The Republicans have been skeptical about the magnitude of assistance for Ukraine. On the war front, though, Russia escalated its strikes against Zelensky's forces. It was countered by very strong Ukrainian resistance. The battle, which is mostly contained to Ukraine's east, saw Kyiv's troops tactically deploying Western-supplied arms, which proved effective against the Russian advance. By October, the war began to see some dramatic shifts. Having failed to take Kyiv, Russia withdrew completely from the north. Ukraine claims it may have achieved a breakthrough. Kyiv says its forces have gained a foothold in the eastern bank of the Dnipro River, allowing it to transfer vital equipment across the river. Russian forces too claim to have made advances in the east, near Avdiivka in Donetsk. Through the year, Crimea witnessed a surge in attacks, with Ukraine hitting the peninsula as part of its counteroffensive. In September, Crimea's Sevastopol was hit by a major missile attack, which killed 34 Russian officers. It also caused significant damage to the dry docks, which are vital for the maintenance of Russia's Black Sea fleet. Since the Second World War, 45 out of the 54 countries in the African continent suffered attempted coups, and now the military takeovers are on the rise again, especially in West and Central Africa, a vast region known as the Coup Belt, with a continuous chain of military rulers stretching from coast to coast. Africa saw 2 military takeovers in the year 2023. In July, Niger's military toppled a pro-West regime and put President Mohamed Bazoum under house arrest. Regional powers and the West took a tough stance and issued an ultimatum to restore democracy. But Niger's military rulers paid no heed to the threats. The pro-West ECOWAS imposed sanctions against Niger and suspended trade. However, the West-led intimidation clearly failed because within months, Africa saw another regime toppled, this time in oil-rich Gabon. The Republican Guard, a unit of the armed forces that protects the president, moved to seize power after the incumbent Ali Bongo was declared the winner in disputed elections. Ali Bongo, who came to power in 2009, was a close French ally like his father Omar Bongo, who ruled Gabon for 42 years. But Bongo had seen growing public resentment and the military seized upon it. Since 2020, there have been 8 successful coups d'etats in West and Central Africa, including those in Burkina Faso, Guinea, Chad, Mali and Sudan. Apart from the military taking over, there has been another common sight in the region, and that is of popular support from civilians for the uprisings and coups. There has been a growing resentment towards civilian-led governments, mostly due to rising poverty, deepening inequality, and corrupt administrations. The recent military takeovers have set a dangerous trend across the continent. Is Africa on the cusp of more coups?
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
On to India now. The country has been over the moon this year, quite literally. In a giant leap for its space program, India's moon mission, the Chandrayaan 3, touched down on the lunar South Pole, making it the first country to land on the uncharted surface and the 4th to accomplish a lunar landing.
The launch has also added a feather in the cap.
Chandrayaan 3's lander Vikram and rover Pragyan spent about 10 days in the region and gathered data and images to be sent back to the Earth for analysis. They were then put into sleep mode at lunar nightfall. After a series of complex maneuvers, the spacecraft that ferried the lander-rover duo successfully returned home to the Earth's orbit. The mission has been significant for ISRO's plans of a manned mission to the moon. ISRO says it plans to send Indian astronauts to the moon for the first time by 2040. The successful and historic Chandrayaan 3 mission not only etched India's name in space history, but captured the imagination of millions worldwide. Interestingly, the Chandrayaan 3 landing was the 9th most Googled event of the year. The world sure has witnessed several record-breaking moments this year, but not all that we have achieved can be boasted about. We're talking about climate change. Another 365 days around the sun, and we've shattered climate records yet again. Extreme weather has left a trail of destruction, devastation, and despair in several parts of the world. Greenhouse gas levels continue to increase. Sea level rise is the highest till date. Antarctic sea ice is at a record low. According to the World Meteorological Organization, 2023 has been the warmest year on record. The past 9 years, 2015 to 2023, were also the warmest. At the biggest climate gathering of the year, the COP28 summit, governments were seen squabbling over the transition away from fossil fuels, with OPEC members and allies fiercely opposing the move. After extended and intense discussions, the COP28 summit in Dubai approved a deal directing the world on the transition away from planet-warming fossil fuels. Climate experts say the El Nino, which emerged during the Northern Hemisphere spring of 2023 and rapidly developed during the summer, is likely to further fuel heat in 2024. The world has certainly experienced a deafening cacophony of broken records in 2023. While we cannot return to the climate of the 20th century, we can certainly act now to limit risks and protect the planet for the coming centuries.